Ingrid Mae released the album Holy Smoke in 2019 and now has a new album, Closing Time, which showcases her country, pop and rock talents. There's quite a lot of soul in there as well. I'm going to talk to her about the album. Hi, Ingrid.
Hello, nice to meet you, Sophie. Thanks for talking to me.
A pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed this album. I have quite a few questions for it, and I'm going to start by asking you, when did you start writing for Closing Time?
I'm always writing, so I think that I always say to the guys in the band, like, I've written a new song. I probably write at least a song a week, and sometimes I write a song every day. So to answer in a quick, short, efficient way,
doesn't have to be
2018 and probably 2019, some of the songs, but there's How Do You Do It, or as the single's called, How You Do It. I wrote that earlier than that. Wayside probably a couple of months before the album, and Country Queens was a latecomer. So that was one of those songs that the album was done and it was sitting there and it was ready just for a final vocal, and I wrote the song and I said, the album needs this uplifting kind of a vibey boppiness to just balance it better. And Paul's like, rock guy is well, really, the album's done, Ingrid, stop throwing stuff at me. But we did it anyway. So Country Queens was after everything was done, so it was probably early 2020, I think.
So when you write that many songs, I imagine it makes it difficult to pick what will go on the album, unless, do you see some of the songs as basically like clearing the way for the songs that you're going to end up recording?
I sometimes write the similar song that I'm trying to write over and over. So I might have 5 or 6 songs that I've written about a V8 engine and some guy, and it might be a vacuous, I might think it's a vacuous, vague song about some hot person, but I'll write it, and I probably write 4 or 5 that I'd group together. I'm terrible because I group my songs together. I don't know if anyone else does that, but I say, oh, this is like a Western suicidal song. This is like a boppy Robert Palmer vibe, and I'll kind of group them into little groups, and then I'll say, that doesn't fit in the album. If we're going to tell a story, that doesn't fit, that stands out, that's too dark, you know what I mean? And I'll just knock them out like that. And then Rock Guy, who is, to explain to your viewers and listeners who he is, he's my partner / drummer / co-producer on all of my albums, and he is my my greatest fan and also my greatest critic. So we have a really good understanding. If I write, it's normally in the morning. I'll write like really early in the morning, like what I call early is like 7:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, just had a coffee, that's the time.
Right.
And he'll tell me, it's great, it's good, no, it's not. He's so discerning, and he's got such a great what's the word, vision. And when I explain a song and I say, this is what I hear with the drums and this is what I hear with the guitars, and sometimes I'll know the lead breaks and I'll hum them to him, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'll get that input, but it's a very long answer.
No,
a lot gets thrown out.
I always find the process so interesting because, it's work. I always have people love to hear about work, and it's your work process, and every songwriter has their own way of doing things. Some people will write a lot, and then it's, the ones they end up recording are what has emerged from that process. But I love the idea that you have these categories for songs where you're like, no, it's that kind of song and I don't want to have it. Yeah. Although I would like to hear the song about the V8 and the hot guy. Like, that's,
I've got one, and that is going to be recorded in the next couple of months. So I might send you the demo now so you can hear it.
Because that sounds like fun, and
it's fun.
We all need fun at this point. So it sounds like you and Paul have a good dynamic. Well, it seems like you appreciate the constructive criticism, maybe not at 7:30 in the morning, but it's a good dynamic. Has it always been there, or has this developed over the course of your working together?
It's always been there. I'm not an artist that naturally came out going like the frog in that cartoon, hello my honey, hello my baby, and I was so shy and so introverted in my music, and no one had heard my original songs.
Right.
So I was 35. I know I'm not telling everyone my age now, am I? But at the time I was 35. And no one had heard any of my original songs. They were just sitting, I was playing in my bedroom, and Paul actually overheard one of them and said, "What's that? What are you doing?" So that's how my original music came. So Paul has always had a great ear for just grabbing and motivating and saying you can do it. And he's my number one supporter. So I wouldn't be doing this if Paul hadn't found me. I think I'd probably still be doing, mundane things, and I wouldn't be creating music.
So up until that point, had you been performing? So you were writing songs. Were you performing but doing covers at that time?
I was performing and doing covers. I came from a musical childhood, so my dad always played at weddings and at festivals and stuff to help pay the mortgage. So Dad was always a weekend musician, and he worked at a reception lounge in Cabramatta called the Etruscan. So that was in the 70s, so around, the time when I was born. And it was really great money in the 70s. So he was able to, provide me, had a day job as well. And I always, from a young age, used to just sing along with him and sang harmonies. And then I was probably 12 or 13, and I'd get all dressed up, put on an outfit, and I'd play with the band. When I say play, I'd have a tambourine, and I'd be like, I'd be the girl in the band with the tambourine. But country music was always there. I always loved Patsy Cline.
Mhm.
And my dad encouraged me to learn the organ. So I played the organ in church. I hated the organ. I wanted to play guitar. And my dad was like, "There's already a guitar player in the family. You should play keys, because, keys will complement the guitar." But I was such a syncopator. I loved drumming. I loved strumming. And the piano, the keys, the organ weren't cutting it for me. Do you know what I mean? So I was a really bad guitar player, probably until I was in my 30s. And then I thought, nah, I'm really going to pick up this guitar and just learn how to play all the chords. And I actually went out and played 2 years full time in the Sydney covers circuit. So I played Circular Key. I played to all the drunks. Hello, if you recognise me from George Street. I did all of that. So.
And yeah, I believe the title track "Closing Time" is written about that experience.
That is written about that experience. Look, some people really love the experience. Maybe if I sang in a few cover bands in my 20s, but I think when you're older and you're in your 30s and you're doing it, I think it's very different. I think that if I call it like your enamel wears off, and so things impact you a bit more. Now I'm probably more seasoned. It doesn't affect me as much. We just did an after races in the country last couple of weekends ago.
That would have been fun.
And that didn't bother me, but I had to reprimand everyone and say, "Oi, you, out," and you have to have that relationship with the crowd. And I think if I hadn't built that over all those gigs where it's terrible and there's 3 people in high vis show up and they're smoking all over you, you know what I mean? I probably couldn't have dealt with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking, your experience singing with your dad at the reception lounge, the Etruscan, that is so evocative when you said like the reception lounge in Cabramatta called the Etruscan. Like I can just picture what the parties would have been like. But yeah, wedding crowds are not necessarily as rowdy as the post-races crowd, but they're not necessarily listening either. So you really have to try to work to engage them and get the party started. So that would have been a great education.
Yeah. I've always loved singing with my dad, and I must get my dad to, he's also got a really good voice, so I must get him to do a song with me, because he actually said the last time he was down, "We need to do a song together, Ingrid." And I said, "Well, I haven't written a suitable one that a father-daughter can sing together. They're all kind of lovers or something. So when I find one, we're going to sing it together. So
I do like the fact that he suggested you learn organ, which is completely not a portable instrument. It's like he was trying to make sure you were not going anywhere.
yeah. I hated it. Sorry, everyone. I played in church. I hated it. I didn't know, like, there are prompts that you need to play, like, for the liturgy and all this stuff. And I went to a Catholic school, but I was pretty crap. I think there was a nun prodding me saying, play that, it's the homily, you know, and I was like, oh, okay. But I was so little. Little. Yeah.
It's a big instrument to undertake, I think, more serious than piano, the organ. But going back to the albums, you said that I saw you say online that if Holy Smoke was outlaw country, Closing Time gets back to the hideout.
Yes.
I think that's what you said. I'm wondering if you had a sense of the direction the album was going to take when you started writing it, or was it only once you started recording it?
No, when I started to write a lot of the songs, and I didn't start writing the songs for the album. I just kind of wanted to outright songs, if that makes sense. And I had in mind that this was going to be Billy Joe Spears, Kenny Rogers, kind of a upbeat album. And because I had the songs, well, I thought I had the songs for that album. And then when we sat down, it was Paul, Brad, and myself. Paul is rock guy, so I might alternate between saying he's Monica, rock guy, and Paul. But the three of us kind of sat down, and I literally just played them acoustically, how I wrote them, and we listened through, and there were about 32 songs that I sat and played through, and everyone kind of went, you know, yeah, nah, you know what I mean? And did a short list. And so the album took on a different, and maybe it's Brad's fault. Brad, I think it's your fault, Brad, because Brad said, oh, I love this. And it was, I think it was Wayside, No SOS, because they were songs that didn't have homes. And I thought, I've never written a song like Wayside. Is it too confronting to talk about having fallen by the wayside? And I thought the lyrical imagery was really quite dark for people. And No SOS I thought was just weird, because I'd imagined that rhythmic guitar to have like a emergency Morse code sound at the start. Right. And I knew it had that, and it was that da 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 da, which is literally SOS, right? Yeah. So, but as soon as they heard them, they just loved those ones. And I'm like, well, hang on, I thought I've got this song called Twice as Good, and it's a duet, and it's like, you know, I can imagine like Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton singing, and they're like, no, we like this gritty stuff. We like this darker, moody stuff. You've really the Western stuff, which was surprising to me. So it just happened that way.
Yeah, we should say Brad is Bradley Bergen, who was a collaborator on the album. And No SOS is the new single from the album. So can you tell us a bit about what the song is, what the storyline is, all those sorts of things?
No SOS is, I think it's like a Western Britney Spears, but Britney's not back in the early 90s, you know, Britney's experience, and maybe she hasn't had the breakdown, I don't know. But look, it's a mature, in control woman singing this song. So if you listen to it, you'll think, oh, what does she mean by that? Don't stop it now, make it hurt just a little more so I know what I'm worth. Right. And words like that, they're a little bit, if you take them on first instance, you go, oh my God, that's terrible. But they're not meant that way. If you listen to it, the singer is actually, so I'm trying to separate myself from the singer and the songwriter to think where my head was at when I wrote it. It's in control. The person's not being attacked or assaulted. The person is having a good time, but they're in control. They know it's bad for them, but they're actually okay. Right. That it is quite bad, that the relationship might not be as symbiotic as what they wished it to be. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it's a really cool song. And I think at the end of the day, it really is a country song. If you it's pretty stripped back as it is, and I think it's just a country song. I mean, it's just a different song, I think, maybe because of some of the chord choices, but the melody is definitely country melody.
And I love the idea of it being a Western Britney Spears. But in listening to Holy Smoke and listening to Closing Time, what I could hear on the new album was that you sounded more powerful, if that makes sense, in your vocal. Like there was just a sense of you taking ownership of it. And I'm wondering if there was a shift in how you thought of yourself as an artist between the albums.
I think I've never thought I was good enough to sing. I've always been told that I can't sing something because my voice is a different style of voice. I'm a real alto singer, you know, like Susie DeMarchi from the 90s, like hello, like she's awesome, but like Melissa Etheridge. So I'm in that kind of vein of singing. And I was always, and even when I saw vocal coaches and I was told, you know, stop doing that. You have to be like Deborah Hutton. You have to project from the front of the mask. And I'm thinking that, hang on, like I'm back there. That's where I am. Like that's,
yeah.
So you're right. So you're dead right. I think that I felt more comfortable in my voice for sure. And I think a lot of the reason too, when I record vocals, Paul is the audio engineer. So, but you can't have that person who is your partner and the audio engineer also telling you what to do.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just imagine, like I'm in there and he's going, Ingrid, we need you to do that again. And I'm like, eye roll, like, oh, I can't sing it again. That was the best ever. I'm not going to replicate that. Like, you know what I mean? And if you watch some of those documentaries about producers who go, sing it again, and, you know, they get that one performance that you can't get. Having your partner in the room, it's really hard to put that pressure on your relationship. Yeah. So we put Brad between Rock Guy and I. Right. So Brad was like, push the button and say, hey, Ingrid, that was really great. We were thinking that draw you did, can you know, focus on that and X, Y, Z. And when Brad said it, I was like, yep, sure. Right. But if Paul was to say it, I'd just be like, I don't know whether it's a nerves thing or I don't know what it is, but we found that worked really well.
And it's a different dynamic, I guess, when it's someone you know so well who's also giving you instructions. But also you produced the album with Paul, and I'm wondering if that also gave you a sense of more of a sense of power and control over the material. So, and that fed into how you sang it.
I think that Paul was so adamant at the beginning, and even flat out saying, and even Brad, both of them just wanted to make that album sound like what I envisaged it to be like in my head. So, and even sometimes if I didn't say no to ideas, but if I had a real firm idea, I didn't let it go. You know what I mean? And I held tight onto those songs I thought for that idea. And the guys were did anything, I guess, for it to work. And if it wasn't going to work, you know, I'd say, well, that sounds terrible. You know, who came up with that idea?
Not me.
Not me. But no, I think that I think I'm so lucky, and both of and even Eddie was the bass player on the album, and he never wanted to be involved in the decision making, not much at all. Like, so he loved to just do his part, say something, and he never wanted to get involved politically in any argument about something or this riff or that riff or whatever. So he was like the Clydesdale of the group that was always, you know what I mean? So sadly he passed away, and it was in May last year. So we're coming up to nearly 12 months of not having him, but we miss him terribly. And he was, when I talk about, when you asked about when I started to write my music, Ed has been there since the day dot when we started to perform the songs as a trio. And he just jumped up and said, yep, I'll be your bass player, I'll drive wherever you want, I'll play whatever gig you want. So yeah, just an amazing soul and a beautiful man. So yeah, it's a great loss that he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, and I imagine it, shifts the context of your music a bit, since he's been there from the start. It's like,
yeah,
you're now going to make music in a different way, which is bittersweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned he died in May last year, and the music tracks had been recorded actually at the start of 2020. So you had
heard them. Yes, I did heard them. And it was funny because the week before I said to him, Eddie, do you want to play again? I've got a gig for 3 weeks. And he said, let's give it another month things and let's see how I feel. And he'd lost his father not long before that. So he was really struggling with the loss of his dad. And let's face it, we'd kind of, music had just halted, and we'd come out of all of and I don't know, I just felt like I was just starting to get myself back together after all of that stuff. And who would have thought that waiting, he didn't have the month to wait, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah. Yeah,
it's there's nothing much I can say actually at that. It's such an unusual set of circumstances, but you have a body of work that you have created, and you all created together. And just going back to the recording of the album, so there was quite a gap between you laying down the music tracks and recording your vocals due to the pandemic. What was it like being on hold for all that time?
I think we managed to do the vocals, I think my lead vocals during the pandemic. So if I'm remembering correctly, we laid down the music December and New Year 2020. And then of course March happened. And I think it was early 2021, all the lead vocals were down. So it was weird because, look, when I say there were no vocals, there were vocals there, but it was like me with my dog on my lap, and it was the rough vocal that, that was part of to record the drums and the bass, and it was that vocal. So it wasn't the sexy room vocal with the pop filter, and I've got plosives, girl. I'm like, pet. So I need that. But I think also it needed harmony vocals. So by that point, Catherine Britt had offered to do harmonies on 3 of the tracks. If I can remember this correctly, No SOS, Country Queens and Poor Little Thing have got the lovely harmony vocals of Catherine Britt, and it's just given it that wonderful intensity. And you can sing your own backing vocals, but sometimes it just adds that different colour. That is a different vibe. And also, look, Paul's sung harmony vocals as well, and Brad's done harmony vocals, especially on The Party's Over and one of the other ones. I'm having a mental blank.
Well, there are 14 songs on the album. So
like 14, there's 14. Yeah. So there's a lot.
I think it's a perfect number. I think it's great as a listener when you're really enjoying an album to know there are lots of songs. It's really sad when it ends on like 8 songs. 14 is great.
I had 14 on Holy Smoke as well. So I don't know. I think there was supposed to be 13 on Holy Smoke, and we threw an extra one in. And there was supposed to be 13 on Closing Time, and I threw an extra one in with Country Queens.
Oh, there you go. Right.
So I don't know.
Well, it is a very satisfying album, and I imagine you are going to present it through some shows. Hopefully coming up, there's some live shows. So can people see you somewhere soon?
We've actually done it a little bit in reverse. So we've played a lot of shows before the album was out, and because we've trickle-fed, well, I shouldn't say trickle-fed. I feel like I've blasted people in the face once a month, because the singles have come out quite fast. So I think probably 5 weeks between each one. and there've been 5 now. I think this one's the 6th one, no SOS, or is it the 5th? I can't remember. So it's a little bit in reverse, and we've got Rock Guy who's going to have some surgery on his arm, so he's going to be out of action. So I don't know. We've probably got a few little shows, but they're in the works at the moment. But we've just played the last few months, and we did Tamworth, which was amazing. So we showcased the album in Tamworth. Fantastic. And it was my first official Tamworth as Ingrid Mae, the artist. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
And to go back to where we started talking about your songwriting, given that you write so much, is there a temptation for you to think, right, well, this album's done, I'm going to move on now, and I've got new things to do?
I totally dropped stuff, and I think the beauty in having let it sit for a little bit is I didn't get covered in it and sick of it. And so when it came to Paul, we did the final master with Don Bartley from I can't recall Don's mastering company, but anyway, he did a fantastic job. But when I heard the mastered album, it sounded new to me because, and normally you're right, I'm terrible. I'm like, that's old. What about this song? Shiny, new, like, listen to this one. Oh my God. But and Brad always tells me to not do it either, but I guess naturally you just always want to write the best song in the world that you've ever written.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you want it to be, you know, it's like any piece of art. Like you cut up the pattern, you would make a dress, it's going to be the best dress in the world, and then you make it and you're like, meh, I'll make another one, you know. But I think that's what I've always been like.
Right.
So
have you always been... Sorry, go on.
No, I'm trying to be different with this because I think I had that break.
Okay, right.
From it, yeah.
But have you always been creative? Like even when you were a little girl, were you making things and curious about all different art forms?
Yeah, I was with my dad welding in the shed. I was making cricket bats. I was painting, sewing. I was always making and doing stuff. My mum's really creative. My whole family are quite imaginative, you know what I mean? So I think I was very tactile. And even like, you can't really see this room very much, but like I've mosaiced the mirror.
Right.
I think I took my picture down because I wanted the Golden Girls vibe with the brolga. I think it's a brolga. Anyway. So yeah, but a lot of the stuff I've made or painted or reupholstered or so yeah, the whole house is just full of weird stuff. So if you're ever at my house, I'll show you all my stuff. And I'm terrible for collecting, so I've got trinkets and things, or if someone's you know, thrown out a beautiful side cabinet, I'll be like, I'll paint that and it'll be fabulous. And you know, so yeah, I'm terrible. I've got to stop collecting.
It's also, when you're talking about the welding and the cricket bats, it makes me think you're interested in the nitty gritty of how things are made, which also helps me understand how you can, well, not how you can write so many songs, but just that you have that curiosity in how things are made. So it's like, let's write this song, see what's in it. Let's write another song, see what's in that. So it's obviously that balance of being interested in structure and how to make something, as well as that more creative side.
Yeah, and you're funny you say that, because when I do it, it'll pretty much be a form song with the verse. If it's got a bridge, I'll know it's got a bridge. If it doesn't have a bridge or whatever. But I don't come back to stuff very often. It's either written and it's done, and I've got an audio file which is my like my guide track and like my demo, and I rarely go back and go, oh no, I'm going to rewrite the verse, or I'm going to rewrite this, I'm going to change. I don't. That's it, and it's done, and then that's the creation, and I don't do that very often. I may have only done it twice in my life with a song that I've gone back and went, oh, I'm going to swap the chorus of this song with the chorus of that one. Like I don't do that much. Yeah. Interesting.
Oh no, I always find it interesting to hear those sorts of things about an artist's background, because clearly everything you've experienced over your life, feeds into your creativity now. And in wrapping up, that's how we get a great album.
Well, that's a segue.
It is. Just because I've just realized I've had you talking for quite a long time. You may wish to go and do other things on
I
your
talk
evening.
a lot. I'm so sorry.
No. It's all interesting. Please never apologize for talking. I always think it's fascinating. And it has been fascinating talking to you, Ingrid Mae. But I will let you go because you may wish to do other things with your evening. The album is Closing Time. I thoroughly recommend it to everyone watching and listening. And they'll catch you down the road in shows.
I check my Facebook and my website. I promise we will be playing somewhere, sometime.
Great to talk to you. Thanks, Ingrid.
You too, Sophie.